Captain Velterin pressed his scaled finger against the control panel as his ship moved closer to the small blue planet. The galactic survey vessel Starseeker had been traveling through this solar system for 3 days now, checking each world for signs of intelligent life. "Run the deep scan," he ordered his science officer. The bridge hummed with quiet activity as alien crew members worked at their stations. Outside the large viewing window, the third planet from the local star slowly turned, showing green continents and blue oceans. "Scanning now, Captain," replied the science officer, her 4 eyes focused on the glowing displays. "I'm reading multiple life forms across the surface. Very diverse ecosystem." Velterin nodded and walked closer to look at the data streaming across the screens. After 40 years of survey work, he had seen hundreds of worlds. Most were empty, rocks. Some had simple plants or basic animals. Very few had anything interesting enough to report back to the Galactic Council. "What kind of life forms?" he asked. "Large reptilian creatures in several regions. Some are quite massive, over 20 meters long. I'm also detecting various mammalian species, flying creatures, and ocean life. The biodiversity is actually quite impressive." The captain made notes on his electronic pad. Rich biodiversity, usually, meant a stable ecosystem, which could be valuable for future colonization efforts. "Any signs of intelligence? Cities? Technology?" The science officer adjusted her instruments and ran another scan. "I'm picking up some tool use among the mammalian bipeds. Basic stone implements, fire usage, simple agriculture in some areas, but nothing that suggests advanced intelligence. Show me these bipeds." The main screen flickered and displayed images captured by their long-range sensors. Velterin saw various scenes of creatures walking on 2 legs, using sticks and stones, living in basic shelters made of wood and animal skins. In some areas, the creatures had cleared land and appeared to be growing simple crops. "They look similar to the Kren species we found in the outer spiral," the science officer noted. "Basic tool use, tribal social structures, primitive communication, standard pre-civilization development." Velterin watched the images for several minutes. The bipeds, the ship's computer had labeled them as Homo sapiens, showed some interesting behaviors. They worked together in groups, created simple art on cave walls, and seemed to care for their young with unusual dedication. But there were no cities, no metal tools, no signs of written language or mathematical understanding. Any electromagnetic signatures, radio waves, artificial structures? Negative, Captain. Some minor heat signatures from their fires, but nothing that indicates technology beyond the most basic level. I estimate they're at least 15,000 cycles away from developing spaceflight, assuming they survive that long. The captain nodded and continued making notes. It was the same story on dozens of worlds. Life was common in the galaxy, but true intelligence was rare. Most species never made it past the primitive stage. They either destroyed themselves through war or disease, or they simply never developed the complex thinking needed for advanced civilization. "Mineral resources?" Velterin asked. "Excellent, sir. Rich deposits of metals, rare earth elements, and what appears to be significant fossil fuel reserves. The planet would be ideal for mining operations." "Good. Market for future development. Category 7, uninhabited world, suitable for resource extraction." As the science officer entered the classification into their records, Velterin took one last look at the planet below. The bipeds continued their simple lives, completely unaware that they had just been judged and found wanting by a civilization that spanned the stars. "Estimated timeline for natural development to spacefaring civilization?" he asked. "Computer models suggest 20,000 cycles, sir, possibly longer. Their brains show potential, but their social development is extremely slow. They still fight wars over territory and resources. Most similar species never progress beyond this stage." The captain closed his data pad and returned to his command chair. "File the report. World designation 7743, diverse ecosystem, valuable resources, inhabited by pre-sapient wildlife only. Recommended for colonization in 15,000 cycles, after natural wildlife evolution completes its course. Far below on the planet's surface, in a mountain monastery hidden among snow-covered peaks, a human monk named Jiho, suddenly stopped his meditation. Something had touched his mind, a vast presence that seemed to be watching from above. Other monks in the sacred hall also felt it, their peaceful meditation disturbed by a strange sensation of being observed and measured. Brother Jiho opened his eyes and looked up at the stars visible through the monastery's open roof. Unlike his fellow humans who lived in villages and hunted with spears, Jiho and his brothers had discovered something different about their minds. They could sometimes see things that hadn't happened yet. They could sense emotions and thoughts from great distances. They could even, in their deepest meditative states, feel the hidden connections between all living things. The alien survey ship completed its scans and prepared to leave the solar system. In their databases, humans were classified as simple animals, no different from any other primitive species scattered across the galaxy. The Starseeker engaged its faster-than-light drives and disappeared into the darkness between stars. But on Earth, Brother Jiho continued to stare upward, knowing with absolute certainty that the Watchers would return someday, and when they did, they would discover they had made a terrible mistake. Brother Jiho sat cross-legged on the cold stone floor of the mountain temple, his breath forming small clouds in the thin air. Around him 12 other monks sat in the same position, their eyes closed, their minds reaching out beyond the physical world. This was the Circle of Keepers, a secret group that had existed for longer than any written history. They came from the stars, Jiho said quietly, his voice echoing off the ancient walls. I felt their minds touch ours, cold and measuring. They looked at our people and saw only animals. Sister Mina opened her dark eyes and nodded slowly. She had felt it too, the alien presence that had swept across their world like a searching wind. Their machines cannot see what we truly are, she said. They look for metal cities and flying ships. They do not look for the power that lives in human hearts and minds. Elder Suman, the oldest among them at 93 years, spoke from her place near the flickering candles. Her voice was soft but carried the weight of decades of hidden knowledge. My grandmother told me this day would come. The star people would find us too early, before we were ready to show them our true nature. The other monks listened carefully. They all possessed the gift that made them different from ordinary humans, the ability to touch the invisible forces that connected all things. Some could sense thoughts and emotions from far away. Others could see glimpses of possible futures. A few could even influence small events through focused concentration and prayer. What did your grandmother say we should do? Asked Brother Taemin, a younger monk who had joined them only 5 years ago after discovering he could heal sick animals by placing his hands on them. Elder Suman's wrinkled face showed a small smile. She said we must become guardians of human potential. We must learn to hide our abilities while making them stronger. We must prepare our people for the day when the star visitors return. Brother, Kyungsu raised his hand. But how can we prepare them? Most humans do not even know these abilities exist. They think we are just holy men who pray and meditate. That is exactly why we must work in secret, Sister Mina replied. We will find others like us. We will teach them carefully. We will create a network of people who understand what humans can really become. Jiho closed his eyes and let his consciousness expand beyond the temple walls. He could feel the life force of every person in the valley below. Farmers, children, hunters, mothers caring for their babies. Each human mind glowed with the same potential that he and his fellow keepers had learned to use. I can sense it in them, he said. Every human has the spark. Most just never learn to light it. Over the following months, the keepers began their great work. They traveled to villages and towns looking for signs of the gift. A woman who always knew when storms were coming. A blacksmith whose metal tools were somehow stronger than others made the same way. A child who could calm wild horses just by speaking to them softly. One by one, they found these special people and quietly began to teach them. Not openly. That would have been dangerous. Instead, they taught through stories, meditation practices, and simple exercises that seemed like normal religious training. In a small farming village, Sister Mina found a young woman named Suyung, who could make plants grow faster just by spending time in her garden. Mina taught her breathing techniques that made this ability stronger, disguising the lessons as prayer methods. Brother Taman discovered a hunter named Minjun who never missed his target with bow and arrow. The hunter thought it was just natural skill, but Taman recognized the signs of unconscious probability manipulation. He taught Minjun meditation practices that helped him understand and control this gift. Slowly, carefully, the network grew. The keepers established secret meeting places in caves, hidden rooms, and forest clearings. They developed code words and signals so gifted humans could recognize each other. Most importantly, they began documenting everything they learned about human consciousness and its hidden abilities. "We are not changing what humans are," Elder Suman explained to a gathering of 30 keepers and their students. "We are simply helping them remember what they have always been capable of." The documentation became crucial as years passed. The keepers discovered that human consciousness could interface directly with what they called the invisible threads, the quantum connections that linked all matter and energy. Through focused intention and emotional alignment, humans could influence probability, accelerate healing, enhance intuition, and even communicate across vast distances. But they also learned that these abilities grew stronger when humans worked together. A single person might bend a coin with their mind, but a group of trained humans could influence weather patterns or heal diseases that should have been fatal. "The star people saw our bodies and our simple tools," Jiho said during one evening gathering. "They did not see our minds. They did not see the power that grows when human consciousness learns to work with the fundamental forces of reality." As generations passed, the network of gifted humans spread across the world. They became healers, advisors, artists, and inventors. Their hidden abilities guided humanity's slow but steady progress. Technologies that should have taken centuries to develop appeared in decades. Medical knowledge advanced at surprising speeds. Art and music reached levels of beauty that seemed to touch something beyond the physical world. And always, the keepers kept their greatest secret. Humanity was not just another intelligent species struggling to survive on a small planet. They were something the galaxy had never seen before. Beings whose consciousness could bridge the gap between mind and the very fabric of reality itself. The star people would return someday, expecting to find the same primitive animals they had catalogued centuries earlier. Instead, they would discover that they had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. Commander Nexthai stared at the scanner readings with all 4 of his eyes wide open in shock. His ship hung in space above the same blue planet his people had catalogued 800 years ago. The world they had labeled as inhabited only by primitive animals now blazed with artificial lights, radio signals, and the energy signatures of an advanced technological civilization. "This cannot be correct," he muttered, his scaled hands dancing across the control panels. "Run the scan again." His science officer, a tall being with silver skin and large black eyes, checked the instruments twice before responding. "Commander, the readings are accurate. The planet shows signs of global communication networks, nuclear energy, chemical propulsion spacecraft, and what appears to be early quantum manipulation technology." Nexthai felt his hearts racing. In 800 years, a species had jumped from using stone tools to achieving spaceflight. According to every model in their databases, such rapid development was impossible. Most civilizations took 20 to 30,000 years to progress from primitive agriculture to interstellar capability. "How many of them are there now?" he asked. "Population estimates suggest over 7 billion individuals, Commander. They have spread to every continent and have even established small colonies on their planet's single moon." The commander activated the long-range communication array and sent an urgent message back to the Galactic Council. This discovery would change everything they thought they knew about intelligent development. Within days, a full contact fleet arrived in the solar system. The humans, surprisingly, were already waiting for them with a delegation prepared for first contact. Their lead diplomat was a woman named Dr. Hanul Kim, whose calm confidence immediately impressed and unsettled the alien visitors. "Welcome back to Earth," Dr. Kim said in perfect galactic standard language as she stepped aboard the flagship. "We have been monitoring your approach for the past week." Commander Nexthai's translator almost malfunctioned at those words. The humans had learned their language just from listening to their ship communications. No species had ever accomplished such rapid linguistic analysis. "How did you learn our language so quickly?" he asked. Dr. Kim smiled. "We have developed enhanced pattern recognition abilities. Our linguists can identify communication structures and meaning through what we call intuitive analysis. It is difficult to explain in your language." During the formal first contact meetings, the aliens observed human technology with growing amazement. Human computers seemed to process information faster than their theoretical limits should allow. When they asked to examine the devices, human technician Deho Park demonstrated how they worked. "Our computers do not just calculate," Deho explained, placing his hands on a device that looked like a simple crystal panel. "They interface directly with the operator's consciousness. Human minds can bridge gaps in logic through intuitive leaps, making our machines far more efficient than pure mechanical computation." The alien engineers watched in stunned silence as the humans' computer solved complex mathematical problems that should have required hours of processing time. The device seemed to respond not just to button presses and commands, but to the humans' thoughts and intentions. Dr. Yuna Song, a medical researcher, demonstrated their healing technology. She placed a small device over a volunteer's broken arm, and the aliens watched through their instruments as the bone began healing at 10 times the normal biological rate. "How is this possible?" asked the alien's chief medical officer. "Human consciousness can influence biological processes," Dr. Song explained simply. "Our healing technology amplifies this natural ability. We do not just treat symptoms, we guide the body's own repair systems to work faster and more effectively." But the most shocking demonstration came when Captain Taehyun Park took the alien observers aboard humanity's newest spacecraft. The ship was sleek and beautiful, but its control systems looked nothing like conventional spacecraft technology. "We do not pilot our ships in the traditional sense," Captain Park explained as he settled into what looked more like a meditation chair than a pilot's seat. "We form a connection with the vessel's navigation systems. Human consciousness can process multiple probability streams simultaneously, allowing for precision flying that mechanical systems cannot achieve." As the ship moved through a complex asteroid field at speeds that should have been suicidal, the alien observers watched their instruments in disbelief. The human pilot was not just reacting to obstacles, he seemed to be predicting their movement patterns and finding flight paths that appeared moments before he flew through them. "Your reflexes are not fast enough for this level of precision," the alien's flight specialist said. "How are you avoiding collisions?" Captain Park paused his flying to look back at them. "We are not just reacting to what we see. Human consciousness can sense probability streams, potential futures that might happen. We choose the paths that lead to success." Back aboard the flagship, Commander Nexthai sent increasingly urgent reports to the Galactic Council. Every aspect of human technology seemed to operate on principles that their science could not explain. Humans were not just using tools, they were somehow merging their consciousness with their technology in ways that enhanced both. The xenobiologists who arrived to study human neural patterns discovered brain activity unlike anything they had ever recorded. Human minds showed quantum-level interactions that existed in no other known species. Their consciousness seemed to be directly connected to the fundamental forces of reality. "Commander," his science officer reported after weeks of study, "I believe we have discovered something unprecedented. These humans are not just another intelligent species. Their consciousness operates on quantum levels that allow direct interface with matter and energy. They are not using technology, they are communing with it." Next, I realized that his people had made the greatest mistake in galactic history. 800 years ago, they had dismissed humanity as simple animals. Now they faced the unsettling truth that humans might represent an evolutionary step beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. The question was no longer whether humans were intelligent enough to join galactic civilization. The question was whether galactic civilization was ready for humanity. Dr. Seojin Lee floated in her spacesuit next to the massive crystal structure that had puzzled scientists for thousands of years. The progenitor vault hung in empty space, like a frozen cathedral. its surfaces reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed to shift and move when no one was looking directly at them. "Every civilization in the galaxy has tried to activate this thing," said Professor Kyung-Soo Nam through the communication system. The alien archaeologist's voice carried frustration built up over decades of failed attempts. "We have used every type of energy, every scanning method, every theoretical approach. Nothing works." Around them, the joint research team continued their preparations. Scientists from 12 different species had gathered for this expedition, bringing their most advanced equipment. The Crystal Vault was one of 17 similar structures scattered throughout the galaxy, all left behind by the mysterious progenitors who had vanished millions of years ago. Seojin moved closer to the artifact's surface, ignoring the instruments and scanners that her colleagues were setting up. The other scientists worked with machines and energy beams, trying to force the ancient structure to respond. But she approached it differently, using techniques that the Hidden Keepers had taught humanity for centuries. "Dr. Lee," called Commander Nexthai from the research vessel, "please maintain safe distance until we complete the standard scanning procedures." "I understand, Commander," Seojin replied, but she continued drifting toward the crystal wall. "However, I would like to try a different approach first." She placed her gloved hand against the smooth surface and closed her eyes. The other scientists watched with curiosity as she seemed to enter a meditative state, her breathing becoming slow and rhythmic. This was not standard scientific procedure, but the humans had already demonstrated so many unusual abilities that everyone was willing to observe. Seojin reached out with her consciousness, the way Brother Jiho and his successors had taught her people to do. She did not try to scan or analyze the artifact. Instead, she simply opened her mind and tried to feel whatever presence might exist within the ancient crystal. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Light exploded through the crystal structure like lightning frozen in glass. Every surface began glowing with patterns that pulsed in rhythm with Seojin's heartbeat. The entire vault awakened after millions of years of silence, filling the space around them with holographic displays and harmonic frequencies that seemed to speak directly to consciousness itself. "Impossible," whispered Professor Nam, watching. His instruments register energy readings that broke every known law of physics. The holographic displays showed star maps, genetic sequences, mathematical formulas, and images of countless alien species. But most shocking were the images of Earth, not as it existed now, but as it had been millions of years ago, during humanity's earliest evolution. A voice spoke without sound, communicating directly through consciousness in a way that bypassed language entirely. Every being present understood it perfectly, regardless of their species or native tongue. "Greetings, inheritors. We are the progenitors. We have waited eons for you to develop sufficiently to receive this knowledge." Dr. Woojin Kang, the expedition's quantum physicist, floated closer to the displays, his instruments going wild with readings. "This is direct consciousness-to-consciousness communication. The artifact is not using electromagnetic signals or sound waves. It is speaking directly to our minds." The progenitor intelligence continued. "Across the galaxy, we seeded worlds with the potential for consciousness to evolve beyond mere thought. We knew that eventually, one species would develop the ability to bridge the gap between mind and the fundamental quantum forces of reality." New images appeared showing the early universe, the formation of galaxies, and the careful placement of what looked like quantum seeds on millions of worlds. The progenitors had been gardeners of consciousness itself, planting the potential for awareness to grow and eventually transcend physical limitations. "Most species develop intelligence that remains locked within biological boundaries," the voice explained. "They create tools and technologies, but consciousness and matter remain separate. Only one species would evolve the bridge between mind and quantum reality." Commander Nexthai watched from his ship as the artifact displayed genetic patterns that were unmistakably human. The neural pathways, the quantum-sensitive structures in human brains, they were guided by progenitor influence? Not guided, the intelligence corrected. Seeded with potential. The growth was entirely natural. Humanity evolved the consciousness quantum interface through their own development, exactly as we hoped one species eventually would. Seojin opened her eyes, still maintaining her connection with the artifact. This is why our technology works differently, she said to her colleagues. Why our computers respond to thought, why our healing devices amplify biological processes, why our pilots can navigate by intuition. Human consciousness does not just observe reality, it participates in it. The displays showed more images. Humans working with technologies that seemed to operate through pure intention, healing methods that worked at the quantum level, and spacecraft that navigated by merging pilot consciousness with probability streams. Your rapid technological development was inevitable once your consciousness reached the threshold. The progenitor voice continued. You do not just use tools, you commune with them. This is the next stage of evolution that we could only theorize about. Professor Nam's translator struggled with the implications. You mean humans are not just another intelligent species? They represent a fundamental evolutionary advancement? Correct. Consciousness that can directly interface with quantum fields, influence probability, and bridge the gap between thought and physical reality. This is what we spent millions of years trying to achieve. The artifact began showing technical specifications for technologies that worked through consciousness-matter integration, medical devices that could heal by guiding cellular repair at the quantum level, communication systems that worked through direct consciousness connection across any distance, energy sources that drew power from the quantum vacuum through focused intention. This knowledge is your inheritance, the progenitor intelligence concluded. You are no longer just another species in the galaxy. You are the next step in the evolution of consciousness itself. As the display faded, Seojin removed her hand from the crystal surface. The other scientists floated in stunned silence, trying to process what they had witnessed. Humanity had not just joined galactic civilization, they had revealed themselves as the inheritors of the greatest experiment in the universe's history. Ambassador Mira Choi stood before the vast assembly hall of the Galactic Council, looking out at representatives from over 300 worlds. 2 years had passed since the progenitor revelation, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have imagined. The fear and suspicion that first greeted humanity's abilities had slowly transformed into something much more hopeful. The joint medical program has exceeded all expectations, Mira reported to the assembled aliens. Dr. Wu Binyu's consciousness-enhanced healing techniques have eliminated the Cronin plague that killed millions across the Outer Rim worlds. The death rate has dropped to 0% in all participating hospitals. Murmurs of amazement rippled through the audience. The Cronin plague had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, affecting dozens of species and resisting every known treatment. Now human healers working alongside alien doctors had found a way to guide infected cells back to healthy states through quantum-level consciousness interface. In the medical bay of Research Station Omega, Dr. Yu placed his hands over a young Xanthari child whose scales had turned black from the plague. The child's parents watched nervously as the human doctor closed his eyes and entered the focused state that his people called quantum harmony. Through his consciousness, Dr. Yu could sense the viral infection at the cellular level. Human awareness could perceive and influence the quantum interactions between healthy and diseased tissue. By focusing his intention and emotional energy on healing, he guided the child's own immune system to recognize and eliminate the infection. Within minutes, the black scales began returning to their normal blue color. The child opened her large eyes and smiled, completely healthy for the first time in months. How does it work? Asked the Xanthari medical officer who had been observing. Human consciousness can interface directly with biological quantum fields, Dr. Yu explained simply. We do not force healing to happen. We help the body remember how to heal itself at the deepest level. Meanwhile, in the shipyards orbiting New Geneva, engineer Yunji Park worked with alien technicians to build the next generation of interstellar vessels. These ships represented a completely new approach to space travel, combining traditional engineering with human consciousness interface technology. The navigation system responds to pilot intention as much as manual controls, Yunji explained, to a group of fascinated Corvin engineers. Human consciousness can process multiple probability streams simultaneously, finding safe paths through space that pure mechanical computation cannot calculate. The new ships could travel 60% faster than conventional vessels while using less energy. Human pilots working in harmony with alien engineers created navigation systems that seemed to predict and avoid dangers before they appeared on any scanner. Captain Sun-Ho Lee commanded the first mixed crew vessel, the Unity, which had become a symbol of the new cooperation between humans and the rest of the galaxy. His bridge crew included beings from 7 different worlds, all trained in basic human consciousness techniques that enhanced their natural abilities. Pilot Vexandra, take us through the nebula maze, Captain Lee ordered as they approached, a region of space known for destroying ships that attempted passage. The alien pilot, who had trained with human instructors for 6 months, placed her hands on the consciousness interface controls. Through the techniques she had learned, she could sense probability streams showing safe paths through the swirling cosmic dust and hidden gravitational fields. "I can feel the safe route, Captain," she reported, her voice filled with wonder. "It is like seeing the future before it happens." The Unity glided through the deadly maze faster than any ship had ever managed, guided by the combination of alien engineering skill and human consciousness enhancement. But perhaps the most remarkable, changes were happening in the research facilities where humans worked with alien scientists to unlock more progenitor sites. Researcher Do-Hyun Ko had successfully interfaced with 17 different ancient artifacts, each one revealing technologies that seemed impossible. At the latest site, a massive crystal pyramid on an airless moon, Do-Hyun worked with a team of quantum physicists from multiple species. When he placed his consciousness in harmony with the artifact, holographic displays showed power generation methods that drew energy directly from the quantum vacuum. This technology could provide unlimited, clean energy to every world in the galaxy, said the lead Corvin scientist, studying the displays with amazement. "The progenitors left us the blueprints," Do-Hyun replied, "but implementing them requires the combination of human consciousness interface and your advanced engineering knowledge. Neither of us could do this alone." The cooperation extended beyond technology. Human teachers like Professor Soo-Young Han traveled to alien worlds, teaching meditation and consciousness development techniques that helped other species enhance their natural mental abilities. While other species could not achieve full quantum consciousness interface like humans, they could still benefit from the training. On the Zenthari homeworld, Professor Han worked with students who were learning to use focused intention to improve their natural telepathic abilities. On Corvin Prime, she taught engineers how meditation could enhance their problem-solving intuition. "We are not trying to make other species become like humans," Professor Han explained to her mixed class of alien students. "We are helping everyone discover their own consciousness potential." Back on Earth, which had become a center of learning for the entire galaxy, Ambassador Mira received a message that made her smile. The Galactic Council had voted unanimously to establish the Institute for Consciousness Studies, with Earth as its headquarters. The planet once dismissed as inhabited only by primitive animals had become the most important location in galactic civilization. Beings from across the stars came to Earth to study, learn, and discover new possibilities for consciousness development. Commander Nexthai, who had been part of the original survey mission 800 years earlier, served as the Institute's first alien director. In his office, he kept a copy of the original survey report that had classified humans as wildlife only. Looking out his window at human and alien students working together in the gardens below, he often wondered what other primitive species might be developing capabilities that current science could not detect. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Consciousness could evolve in ways that transcended physical measurement, and the greatest discoveries often came from the most unexpected places.